So I think we started around 4 to 5 years ago. Of course, the founder is Shaykh Amin, so all credit goes to him in terms of the vision, the thought process, and what he had in mind. Um, in a short way to explain, basically we have all these treasures that our scholars have worked on for years and years. Okay, content they've worked on, a deeper understanding of the faith that they've worked on. It's kind of all just sitting in books. A lot of them are in Farsi and Arabic. The number of books in our school of thought that has been translated is very, very little. The percentage is very, very little of what's actually our scholars have worked on.
And then good translations is like
And then that's
smaller.
another thing, whether the translation's good or not. And then the other thing is, even when the book is translated, a lot of this content typically needs to be taught. It's not the type of thing that I can just go pick up and read, right? Because a lot of times there's philosophical principles involved, there's other principles of different sciences and so on and so forth. So the thought process was, let's have an avenue for people who want to learn more about their faith without having to go and make a full-time commitment to study in the Hawza. So in one line, that's basically the vision behind Mizan Institute. And so we have, our approach is a little bit of a mix. We have a lot of emphasis on in-person events. And so that's why the courses are, such an important part of what we do. And it really makes a huge difference. I mean, I've taught online and then I've taught in person, sometimes the same content. And the questions that come up, the way you interact with the community that you're visiting and so on and so forth. So we try to do a little bit of a mix, but of course you can't visit every city. Yeah. And so that's obviously not doable. And so we have to do some stuff online as well. But yeah, the courses are the staple program that we do with Mizan. Then there's podcasts, there's online presentations, there's Sister Fatima Meghji, she does an amazing job with the whole sisters side, and that's exclusively for sisters, so the brothers can't even attend, basically.
Yeah.
So
I get kind of upset about that, honestly.
I know, right?
I was able, a couple years ago, I was able to experience a couple classes taught by her at Life. 2017. And then after that, it's basically been exclusively like sisters.
Yeah.
So I got a taste, and now like.
And I was upset about that too, and I realized I was like, why am I so angry? Because I was like bitterly watching all the sisters around her asking questions. I was like, I can just jump in there and ask questions.
Well, the sisters would tell you, go ask a male Molana, right?
That's exactly what my wife told me. Exactly She's like, now you know how it feels. I'm like, what do you mean? She's like, we don't just jump in and ask like a Molana what we want. So I guess it's only fair at this point.
Yeah. No, alhamdulillah. She's doing a really amazing job in every city I go to. One of the sisters walks up to me, one or more, walk up to me and tell me, oh, I know about Mizan Institute because of Sister Fatima's different classes, courses. She has very long-term, long-form classes, and then she has like smaller units as well. And so that was basically the thought process behind Mizan Institute. And it was also to become a platform so that other scholars and other speakers, if they have an interest in a particular area, they can just plug their content into a platform that is already connected with a lot of communities, has like a place for itself online. So it can become a place where scholars that come out of Hawza, inshallah, have a place where beyond just lecturing in different centers and so on and so forth, they have a place where they can come and provide their content to the community in this particular format, basically.
Like you said, there's so much content before that are just in books. And I've heard this before, and I truly can't really comprehend it, and beyond just content we have in books, I know we have like hundreds of books that have been burned before that we'll never really, potentially ever see. But with all the content that you have access to that we don't, how do you decide what's a course or what's a podcast worth making? Right? How do you prioritize what information people need to see first, in your opinion? Yeah,
it's a really good question. So every scholar, by the way, will have a different approach on this issue. For me, I typically look at two elements in terms of getting into a topic. and discussing it deeper, sometimes through Mizan or even sometimes through the lectures that we do. So one element for me always is this something that Islam has spoken about? And is it something that Islam has spoken about extensively? So there are certain topics that are actually very much part and parcel of our life. Islam hasn't spoken about them extensively, right? And then there's other topics that may not seem like we deal with them every single day, but Islam has spoken about them extensively, right? It's a set of knowledge that Islam shared with us, even though it's not necessarily something we deal with every day, right? So I'll give you guys a typical example: jinn, right? Like none of us is running into jinn. Well, I hope not, right?
Yeah, no.
And but when you look into Quran and Hadith, even if you don't say extensively, there's definitely a lot of mention of it between the narrations and the verses of the Quran and everything. So that means Islam cares about it, and that means it's worthy of some level of discussion. So that's one element. But the second, more important element is, what are the questions that people have, and what are the issues that people are dealing with, right? So for me, it's interesting. I was in this city 3 years ago, 4 years ago. A brother came up to me and asked me a question that turned into the topic of one of my Muharram lectures, because I thought this is an important question. A lot of people have this question, and it's important to clarify this topic. So for me, the questions I get from people, whether it's in person or on social media, that's a big indication. One of the biggest elements I keep in mind. And same thing with Mizan Institute as well, is like some of those topics that we feel like this is something that is relatable to people, but then Islam has also spoken about it, shared about it, and the overlap of those two is like the golden scenario you're looking for.
Was there any like pushback from maybe like different communities in the Dallas area in the beginning of Mizan? Like, because I know oftentimes what happens when new groups are started, even if it's not with the intent of drawing people away from the masajid necessarily, that's often like a critique that's levied at them, right?
Yeah.
It's like, you're pulling people away from our programming.
Yeah.
Did you guys deal with that? And I guess my question would be like, how did you navigate, and how do you kind of placate the leaders, the elders in those communities as well?
Yeah. I mean, I think with Mizan, we didn't deal with it too much, and the reason why was Mizan was never meant to be a local thing.
Okay.
It was always meant to be a platform that serves the Shia school of thought across the world. Now we can say that, when we were starting out 4 years ago, it was basically the States, right? And now, alhamdulillah, it's grown to a point where we have instructors flying to the UK, flying to Australia every year. And so, alhamdulillah, it's grown a lot. But I don't think we dealt with that in particular. Now, in some of the other endeavors I've had with the local center that we initiated in Dallas, it's called City of Knowledge. So that one, of course, that we had to have a particular approach and so on and so forth.